The Awakening Trap. The transmission arrived at Outpost Nexus 9 during the third cycle of the Galactic Protectorate's standard day. It came not through official channels, but as a weak signal bleeding through the quantum communications network, originating from what appeared to be a damaged scout vessel drifting in the outer reaches of the Cygnus Arm. Do not approach Earth. The humans are not what they appear to be. Earth is not a planet. It is a containment system. If you wake them, everyone pays the price. The message repeated 7 times before dissolving into static. Communications Officer Thrix, a 3-limbed Exolian with mottled blue skin, stared at the waveform display with all 4 of her eyes blinking in sequence, a sign of deep concern among her kind. Commander Drell should see this immediately, she murmured, transferring the recording to a secure quantum drive. Within the hour, the transmission had reached the Galactic Protectorate High Command. The enormous chamber, carved from a single asteroid and orbiting the supergiant Arcturus, was filled with representatives from the 7 major species that govern known space. At its center stood Admiral Zexara, a towering Valfusion with gleaming scale armor fused to her exoskeleton, not for protection, but as a symbol of her many victories. "Play it again," she ordered, her voice rumbling through the chamber. Once more, the desperate warning echoed through the hall. Several council members shifted uncomfortably in their gravitational fields. "What do we know of this Earth?" asked Councillor Efrix, a gaseous entity contained within an ornate environmental suit. A holographic display materialized in the center of the chamber, showing a small blue-green planet orbiting an unremarkable yellow star. Third planet in a system of 8. Oxygen atmosphere. Carbon-based dominant species. Pre-interstellar civilization, recited the AI. The species calls itself human. They have achieved limited spaceflight within their own system, but have not developed fold space technology. Admiral Zexara circled the hologram, her compound eyes reflecting the blue light of the planet. "And someone believes this backwater world is a threat," she scoffed. "They're still using combustion rockets." "The warning was specific, Admiral," said Commander Drell, a Thracian diplomat known for his caution. "Perhaps we should investigate further before." "The Protectorate does not cower at ghost stories," Zexara interrupted. "This is clearly a ploy. Some rival faction hoping to keep us away from a resource-rich system. Or worse, separatists trying to sow fear." She waved a clawed hand through the hologram, dispersing it. "Prepare an expedition. 3 Sentinel ships, 1 command vessel, and a science team. We'll catalog this Earth and bring it into the Protectorate. Standard protocol for primitive worlds." As the council dispersed, Commander Drell approached the Admiral privately. "The transmission mentioned a containment system," he said quietly. "What if Earth isn't containing resources, but containing the humans themselves? What if someone locked them there for a reason?" Zexara's mandibles clicked, the Valfusion equivalent of dismissive laughter. "Then we'll find out why, won't we?" The Protectorate fleet emerged from fold space at the edge of Earth's solar system 3 standard weeks later. The command ship Inevitability led the formation, with the Sentinel vessels Resolute, Dominion, and Apex flanking it in perfect triangular formation. On the Inevitability's command deck, Admiral Zexara watched the view screens with satisfaction as Earth grew from a distant blue dot to a swirling marble of oceans and continents. "Primitive communications detected," reported the sensor officer. "Electromagnetic signals only. They'd spotted us." "Show me their response," ordered Zexara. The screens flickered, showing broadcasts from across the planet. Humans gathering in streets, pointing skyward. Some panicking, others praying. Military forces mobilizing, but in an uncoordinated fashion. Nations arguing with each other even as alien ships approached. "Fractured governance," Zexara noted with amusement. "They can't even unify it in the face of an outside threat." "Admiral," called the science officer, "we're detecting unusual energy patterns from the planet's core. Nothing dangerous, but the readings don't match standard geothermal activity." "Noted. Proceed with protocol. Establish orbit and prepare the announcement. The 4 Protectorate ships settled into high Earth orbit, positioning themselves above major population centers. On Zexara's command, the inevitability broadcast a message in every language they had detected from Earth's communications. People of Earth, we are the Galactic Protectorate, representatives of the unified civilizations of this sector. Your planet has been scheduled for integration. Resistance is futile but unnecessary. The Protectorate brings order, technology, and prosperity. Your leaders have 24 of your hours to surrender governmental control. For several minutes, there was no official response. The screen showed only more confusion, fear, and sporadic military movements. They're scrambling their primitive aircraft, reported the tactical officer. Arming nuclear weapons, nothing that can reach us here. As expected, Zexara said, settling into her command chair. They'll bluster, then capitulate. They always do. But then something unexpected happened. The screens showing Earth's surface began to flicker. Not just 1 or 2, all of them simultaneously. The interference lasted only seconds, but when the images returned, they showed something that made even Zexara lean forward in surprise. Humans, by the thousands, had stopped running, stopped panicking. Many stood completely still, faces upturned toward the sky. Some seemed to be smiling. What are they doing? Zexara demanded. Before anyone could answer, a single transmission reached the fleet. Unlike the chaotic broadcasts before, this one was perfectly clear, as if the sender had technology far beyond what they had detected from Earth. You should have heeded the warning. The voice was calm, almost regretful. It spoke in perfect galactic standard. Impossible, whispered Zexara. They don't have translation technology. Admiral. The science officer's voice cracked with alarm. The energy readings from the planet. They're spiking across the entire surface. On the view screens, the still-standing humans began to change. Nothing dramatic or monstrous, just a subtle shift in posture, in the way they held themselves. Like puppets whose strings had been cut, or creatures who had been pretending to be something they were not. High-energy distortion forming around the Resolute, called the tactical officer. On screen, the Sentinel ship shuddered as space itself seemed to warp around it. Not from weapons fire, there was none, but as if reality itself was being manipulated. Impossible, Zexara repeated, rising from her chair. They have no technology capable of. It's not technology, interrupted the science officer, her voice hollow with realization. It's them, the humans. They're generating the field somehow. Across Earth's surface, more humans stopped their panicked movements. More faces turned skyward. More silent smiles. Resolute reports systems failing, called the communications officer. Life support compromised. There. The officer froze, antenna quivering. Admiral, they're reporting that something is aboard. Something came through the hull without breaching it. Zexara strode to the main viewport, her armored carapace clicking with each step. Launch drones. I want visual. The feed from the drones appeared moments later, showing the Resolute drifting slightly out of formation. Its hull was intact, but strange patterns of light rippled across its surface like water reflections. Magnify, ordered Zexara. The image zoomed in on the ship's bridge viewport. Inside, the crew was visible, not fighting, not panicking, but standing still. Just like the humans below, their faces held the same eerie calm, the same slight smile. Evacuate the Resolute, Zexara commanded. Prepare tow. Another transmission cut across all frequencies, louder this time. No one is leaving. You came to us, remember, against all warnings. Now it's time to understand why we were contained. On the screens monitoring Earth's surface, the standing humans all moved in perfect synchronization. They raised their right hands, palm up, as if offering something to the sky. Every instrument on the command deck went haywire at once. Alarms blared. Officers collapsed, clutching their heads. Even Zexara, with her armored mind, felt something, a presence, pushing against her consciousness. Neural attack. She managed to call out, "Psionic shields." But it was too late. Whatever the humans had unleashed wasn't attacking their ships or their bodies. It was reaching directly into their minds. Not with violence, but with something almost worse. Truth. Images flooded Zexara's consciousness. Earth, but ancient. Humans, but different. A species with potential far beyond what she had seen. A species that had evolved not just physically but mentally, developing abilities that defied scientific explanation. She saw other aliens, species unknown even to the Protectorate, arriving at Earth eons ago, not to conquer, but to contain. To build a prison disguised as a planet. To create a barrier that would limit human potential and keep them focused on petty conflicts rather than their true capabilities. And she saw what happened when that containment failed. "Get us out of here," Zexara gasped, fighting through the mental onslaught. "Emergency fold space jump. Now." But the navigation officer simply stood at her station, smiling that same unsettling smile. All around the command deck, crew members were stopping mid-motion, their eyes glazing over, their expressions changing. The last thing Admiral Zexara saw before blackness took her was the vid screen showing Earth from orbit. The continents were shifting, not tectonically, but as if the planet itself was changing shape, awakening. The warning had been right all along. Earth wasn't just a planet, and humanity was no longer contained. Guardians of the Veil. The Valthusian High Command received Admiral Zexara's final transmission exactly 37 hours after contact with Earth was lost. It wasn't a distress call or a tactical report. It was simply a repetition of the original warning. But now in Zexara's own voice. "Earth is not a planet. It is a containment system. Do not approach." Supreme Commander Krell, leader of the Protectorate's military forces, assembled the War Council immediately. The holographic chamber filled with the most decorated officers from each of the 7 species, their faces grim as the recording played. "Zexara was our finest tactician," Krell growled, his massive reptilian form dominating the center of the room. "If something on that backwater world overwhelmed her entire fleet, we must respond with overwhelming force." "Or perhaps," suggested Counselor Tella, a luminescent Medusan floating in her gravity sphere, "we should heed these repeated warnings. 2 separate sources now tell us Earth is dangerous. What if they're right?" Krell's scales flushed crimson, a sign of irritation. The Protectorate does not abandon its officers, nor does it allow primitive worlds to destroy our ships without consequence. He gestured sharply, and a holographic display changed to show a massive battle fleet. 20 dreadnoughts, 50 cruisers, and hundreds of support vessels. "The Hammer of Dawn stands ready," he announced. "We will not attempt contact. We will not offer integration. We will sterilize the surface from orbit and study whatever remains afterward." Despite objections from several council members, the vote passed. The Hammer of Dawn, the largest military force ever assembled by the Protectorate, entered fold space 12 hours later, with Krell himself commanding from the super dreadnought Inevitable Dominion. On Earth, Dr. Eleanor Chen stood at the window of her underground laboratory, watching the sun rise over the Nevada desert. Though the facility was buried beneath hundreds of meters of rock, the window showed the outside world perfectly, not through cameras, but through what Eleanor and her colleagues called perception folding. "They're coming back," she said without turning. A much larger force this time. Behind her, General Marcus Rivera nodded gravely. Unlike most military personnel, he wore no uniform, no insignia, nothing to mark his authority except the quiet confidence in his dark eyes. "How many humans have awakened?" he asked. 17 million and counting," replied Eleanor. "Mostly in population centers where the ships were visible. The trigger cascade is proceeding faster than we anticipated." She turned from the window, her eyes now holding a subtle glow that hadn't been there weeks earlier. "The Elders are concerned. This isn't how they planned for contact to happen. The Elders have had humanity in stasis for 10,000 years. Rivera countered. Maybe it's time we stopped following their containment protocols. Around them, the laboratory hummed with activity. Dozens of scientists and military personnel monitored displays showing energy patterns spreading across Earth's surface like neural networks activating. Some showed humans in various locations, their bodies surrounded by faint auras that instruments could now detect. The containment was for everyone's protection, Marcus, Eleanor reminded him, including ours. The abilities emerging now, telepathy, matter manipulation, perception shifting, these were locked away because our ancestors couldn't control them. And the aliens who imprisoned us here, were they protecting us or themselves? Eleanor had no answer for that. The true history of Earth's containment was known to only a few, how an ancient race had recognized the dangerous potential in early humans and built a planetary-scale psychic dampening field. How they had altered human consciousness itself, creating mental barriers that prevented most humans from accessing their innate abilities, and how they had appointed certain bloodlines as guardians, humans who knew the truth and maintained the systems keeping humanity contained. Eleanor and Rivera were both descendants of those guardians, but now the system was failing, triggered by the very invasion it was designed to prevent. The Second Fleet will arrive within hours, said Rivera. We need to decide. Do we try to repair the containment, or do we finish breaking it? Eleanor's gaze returned to the window and the deceptively normal sunrise. I don't think we have a choice anymore. The cascade has reached critical mass. She touched a panel on the wall, and the laboratory's central platform illuminated, revealing what appeared to be an ordinary human man in his 40s, lying unconscious on an examination table. Unlike the scientists around him, no technology monitored his condition. Michael is the first fully awakened human in 10 millennia, Eleanor explained. The abilities he's manifesting, we barely understand them, but he insists he needs to be on the surface when the fleet arrives. Rivera approached the table, studying the man's peaceful face. And you trust him? He's still Michael, still the same person, just more now. Eleanor's voice held both awe and fear. And he's not alone anymore. Every hour, more humans are breaking through their mental barriers. The general's hand moved instinctively to the sidearm at his hip, a futile gesture against the power now awakening across the planet. Then God help us all, he murmured. The hammer of dawn emerged from fold space exactly where the first expedition had appeared, at the edge of Earth's solar system. Supreme Commander Krell stood on the bridge of the inevitable Dominion, his massive form casting long shadows in the dim tactical lighting. Status report, he demanded. All ships present and accounted for, Commander, reported his executive officer. No signs of the first expedition. No debris, no distress beacons. And the target? A holographic projection of Earth appeared, rotating slowly at the center of the bridge. It appeared exactly as their records showed. Blue oceans, white clouds, the lights of cities visible on the night side. Unchanged, sir. Still showing pre-interstellar civilization. No orbital defenses, no signs of advanced technology. Krell's eyes narrowed. And yet they somehow neutralized 4 warships and Admiral Zexara herself. He studied the hologram carefully, searching for any clue to the planet's hidden dangers. Launch long-range stealth probes. Fold spectrum analysis. I want to know what we're facing before we enter weapons range. The probes silently detached from the fleet's outrider ships, accelerating toward Earth. For several hours, the massive armada hung at the system's edge, weapons powered down, observing. Sir, called the sensor officer eventually, the probes are returning unusual readings from the planet's electromagnetic field. It appears to be changing. Changing how? Krell demanded. It's developing patterns, sir. Organized patterns, like neural pathways in a brain. Before Krell could respond, the communication officer interrupted. Commander, we're receiving a transmission from Earth directly. They're broadcasting on our secure frequencies. Krell's scales darkened. Impossible. They don't have our encryption protocols. Put it through. The hologram of Earth vanished, replaced by the image of a human male with dark hair and eyes that seemed to hold their own light. Supreme Commander Krell, the human said calmly, speaking perfect Valfusion. My name is Michael Chen. I represent Earth in this matter. Krell's clawed hand gripped the command rail. How do you know my name? How are you speaking our language? The human smiled slightly. I'm in your communication system. I'm in your translator. I'm in your mind, Commander. Just a little. Just enough to facilitate this conversation. A low growl rumbled in Krell's throat. You've invaded my ship's systems. No, Commander. I haven't moved from Earth's surface. This is what you came to contain. This is what the architects locked away 10,000 years ago. Human potential. The bridge fell silent as the implications settled over the crew. This primitive planet somehow had technology, or abilities, that could reach across space and penetrate their most secure systems. You destroy our first expedition, Krell accused. No, Michael replied. They're unharmed. Admiral Zexara and her crew are guests here now. Their minds are expanding, learning truths they weren't ready for. This is an act of war, Krell declared. You've attacked Protectorate vessels and personnel. You came to conquer us, Michael countered calmly, against explicit warnings. But we don't want war, Commander. We want understanding. The human's image shifted, and suddenly he appeared to be standing on the bridge itself, though Krell knew it was only a projection. For millennia, humanity was contained because our potential frightened the elder races. Our minds were shackled, our true nature hidden even from ourselves. We became what you saw, fractured, primitive, obsessed with trivial differences. Michael's projected form walked toward Krell, stopping just before him. But your arrival broke the final seals on our containment. Every hour, more humans awaken to their true capabilities. We aren't just telepathic, Commander. We don't just read minds. We can reshape reality with them. As if to demonstrate, the projection raised a hand, and momentarily, every star visible through the bridge viewport winked out, then reappeared. Krell stood his ground, though several officers gasped or stepped back. If you're so powerful, why not simply destroy us? He challenged. Michael's expression softened. Because that's why we were contained in the first place. The elder races feared what we might become. Conquerors, destroyers. They feared our potential for violence matched our potential for creation. He gestured, and a holographic display activated again, showing scenes from human history, wars, atrocities, destruction. They weren't entirely wrong. Humanity unbound is dangerous. We know this better than anyone. That's why we need you, Commander. Need us. Krell's confusion was evident. We need balance, partnership, teachers. Michael's projection began to fade. The universe contained us because they feared what we might become without guidance. Now we're free, but we don't want dominion. We want communion. The projection vanished entirely, but Michael's voice remained. You have a choice, Commander Krell. Fire your weapons and discover exactly why humanity was contained for so long. Or come to Earth, just you, and see what we're becoming. What we could all become together. Silence fell over the bridge. Krell stood motionless, weighing options, calculating probabilities. Sir, ventured his executive officer, the human could be lying. This could be a trap. Of course it's a trap, Krell replied quietly. The question is whether it's one we can survive springing. He turned to the tactical officer. How long would it take to position for a full planetary bombardment? 4 hours at current velocity, sir. The bridge crew exchanged shocked glances. 3 hours, sir. But surely you aren't considering. I am. Krell interrupted. Prepare my shuttle. The diplomatic shuttle landed in an empty field outside what humans called Geneva, Switzerland. As Krell emerged, alone, unarmed, his massive reptilian form dwarfing the human structures nearby, he was met not by armies or dignitaries, but by a small group of individuals. Michael Chen stood at their center, flanked by a woman Krell presumed to be Dr. Eleanor Chen, and a military man who must be General Rivera. Behind them stood Admiral Zexara, looking physically unchanged but somehow fundamentally different. "Commander," she greeted him, mandibles clicking in the Valthusian expression of respect. "Admiral," he replied stiffly. "Are you a prisoner?" "No," she answered simply. "I'm a student. And now, a bridge." Michael stepped forward. Up close, the human looked unremarkable. Yet Krell could feel something emanating from him, a presence that exceeded physical boundaries. "Thank you for coming, Commander. Few would have had your courage." Krell straightened to his full height, nearly 3 meters tall. "I came to understand the threat before neutralizing it." Michael smiled. "Then let me show you." He held out his hand, palm up, a gesture that meant surrender in Valthusian culture, though Krell doubted the human knew this. "This will be disorienting," Michael warned, "but it won't harm you." Against every instinct honed through centuries of warfare, Krell reached out and placed his massive clawed hand atop the human's palm. The world dissolved. Krell saw Earth not as a planet, but as a complex machine, built by beings ancient before his species had achieved sapience. He saw the containment fields woven into its very structure, the careful manipulation of human evolution to keep their psychic potential dormant. He saw the architects, beings of pure thought who had recognized in early humans a dangerous resonance with the underlying fabric of reality itself. How they had built Earth's containment not out of cruelty but genuine fear for the stability of the universe. And he saw what humanity was becoming now that those shackles were broken. Beings who could perceive and manipulate reality through thought alone, who could reach across space, who could reshape matter and energy, who could evolve beyond physical form if they chose. Most terrifyingly, he saw that his mighty fleet was utterly powerless before them. The humans could dismantle each ship with a thought, could rewrite the minds of every crew member, could simply erase the fleet from existence. But they hadn't. When the vision faded, Krell found himself on his knees on the grass, his reptilian heart pounding. "Why?" he managed to ask. "Why show me this? Why not simply take what you want?" Michael knelt beside him, meeting his eyes directly, a sign of challenge in Valthusian culture, but something told Krell the human meant it as equality. "Because that's the choice before us now. The architects contained us because they feared we would become conquerors, that we would use our abilities to dominate rather than create." He gestured to the humans around him, each now visibly glowing with subtle energy. "We could destroy your fleet. We could bend your protectorate to our will. We have that power now. But that would only prove the architects were right to fear us." Admiral Zexara stepped forward. "Supreme Commander, what the humans offer is unprecedented. Not subjugation or even alliance, but evolution. Shared growth. The containment is broken," Eleanor added. "We can't go back to what we were, but we can choose what we become. And we choose communion over conquest." Krell rose slowly to his feet, his tactical mind racing through implications. If what he had seen was true, the balance of power in the galaxy had just shifted irrevocably. "And if we refuse this communion?" he asked. "Then leave," Michael said simply. "Quarantine our system. Tell others to stay away. We won't pursue you, but we will defend ourselves if threatened again." The unspoken reality hung in the air between them, that defense could mean the end of the protectorate itself. Krell studied each face before him, searching for deception, and finding none. Finally, his gaze settled on Zexara. "You believe in this?" he asked his most trusted commander. "I've seen their minds, Krell," she replied, using his name without title for the first time in their long association. "I felt their potential. They could have taken everything from us. Instead, they offer to share what they're becoming." For a long moment, the fate of two civilizations balanced on the commander's decision. Then, slowly, deliberately, Krell extended his hand, palm up, in the gesture of surrender. "The Protectorate accepts your communion," he said formally, "and may the universe forgive us all if we're wrong." Michael clasped the reptilian hand in his own, and for a brief moment, everyone present felt the boundaries between their minds thin, not dissolving, but becoming permeable. Thoughts, emotions, and perspectives flowed between species that had evolved on worlds light years apart. In that connection, a new kind of civilization was born, neither human nor protectorate, but something greater than either alone. Above them, Earth's skies rippled with aurora-like energies as billions of humans began their awakening, and in orbit, the hammer of dawn stood down its weapons, preparing instead for a different kind of transformation. The containment was broken, humanity was free, and the universe would never be the same.